I don't have any spotted birds or anything like that, and I don't have any wings to put on the horse. So you have a picky pecky and a horse. Pierre, everybody. Um, Pierre is applicable because I am talking about Gonfall today, or God Gonfall of Skypiea, or the Sky Knight, or Knight of the Sky, or however you want to call it. So, this video is also going up, I think, the week that we should have the new One Piece chapter after the hiatus, after Oda is hopefully all recovered from his laser eye surgery. So we'll see how that falls. um, and this video is going to be about Gonfall. As I said, Gonfall of Skypiea, God, Sky Knight, whatever you want to call him. Dude in armor with a javelin that rides around on a bird that can turn into a horse. Him. So, in the previous video, I went over a lot about the current statistics of Skypiea and stuff like that in regards to, obviously, it's a sky island up in the White Sea. It is the home of the Skypeans and the Shandians. Gonfall was the god prior to Eneru and is now once again the current god since Eneru has been defeated by the Straw Hats, by Luffy. Gonfall is the current god, hence why he is last when I'm talking about the Skypean gods at the moment. Gonfall is currently 69 years old, so he is, 68 years old, so he is 66 years old when the major events of Skypiea happen. In regards to his personality, in contrast to Enel, he is so much better of a ruler, so much better of a leader, as we see throughout the course of, just watching episode of Skypiea. You see this very big difference in their personalities and the way that, Enel treats his subordinates and the way that Gonfall treats his subordinates. After he was, even after being, dethroned as god by Enel, Gonfall goes, and yes, he becomes a mercenary as the Sky Knight, or Knight of the Sky, but he's still protecting people to the best of his abilities. He attempts retirement, he attempts to grow pumpkins. That doesn't go very well, or whatever. But Gonfall's approach is much better. He would prefer putting himself at risk as opposed to his subordinates. We also see how much he cares about his subordinates, given the fact that he feels exceedingly guilt-ridden with the fact that so many of his subordinates were basically turned into labor slaves by Enel and his god's army. Also, just a difference in regards to their personalities. Gonfall Enel had his god's army, which implies that they are there for fighting, they are there to destroy to a degree, whereas Gonfall has God's guards instead, is what he ends up having his group called for his section of the Divine Squad. And guards has a more protective setup around it. Also, I figured since I'm talking about, Sky Islands, I have a shirt with an air balloon on it. A hot air balloon on it. It actually has, I believe it has some of the lyrics from Imagine by John Lennon on it. I believe so. I could be wrong. I can't really read them from this angle. Or in the camera. And what ends up happening is, of course, in regards to, Gonfall's story, 25 years ago, which is the earliest that we've seen of him, Gonfall met Goldie Roger when Roger and his crew got to Skypiea, and they themselves found the poneglyph in the Shandorian Golden Belfry Bell. Now, bear in mind, yes, the Roger pirates landed on Jaya, and then went up to Skypiea. I don't think they interacted with Cricket. I don't think Cricket had set up shop on Jaya yet at that point in time. I don't remember if we get an exact answer as to when Cricket set up shop on Jaya, but I don't think he was there yet, because I'm quite certain that if he was, and Roger and the others had interacted with him, or at the very least have Rogers and the others interacted with Cricket, then going up to Skypiea and finding the Golden Belfry, they probably would have rang the bell had they had the option to, or had they known that that would mean so much to the Shandians and to and Cricket. So yeah, I don't think that they had the additional knowledge that the Straw Hats had about the Belfry, about its significance beyond just holding a poneglyph and being a giant frickin' bell made out of gold. And what ends up happening is, Gonfall and Roger meet, and he shows them to where the poneglyph is. And then the Roger pirates then leave Skypiea after they get the information off the poneglyph that, that Odin is able to read to them. Side note, and this really doesn't have anything to do with this topic. Do you know if Odin and the Roger pirates ever ended up finding the poneglyph that was in Alabasta? I don't know. That just kind of occurred to me. I'm like, eh. But moving on. The next kind of big event that we know about in regards to Gonfall is that he strove to finally create a peace between the Skypeans and the Shandians, because he kind of determined that it's like, this is not worth all of this fighting that keeps happening, that this war that has been going on, very, cold-ish type war that has been going on for the past 400 years, or almost 400 years at that point in time. And he's like, okay, we can't have this happen. This battle, this fight, this war has gone on way too long. Too many have been hurt or died or whatever, and the Shandians are the main ones that suffer for it. And he tries to, extend a hand, try to set up peace negotiation, and during this time frame, Wiper actually ends up becoming, actually is the one in charge of the peace negotiations at this point in time. And so this is probably about 10 years ago, 10 to 12-ish years ago. I do not remember how old Wiper actually is, but Wiper is obviously taking on a leading role in this regard. And what ends up happening is, Gonfall tries to do what he can for the negotiations, but the Shandians and Wiper are just there. They can't. The two sides trying to work together can't find a way to compromise, because Wiper has unreasonable demands. Bear in mind, I do not remember what those demands were. I do not remember if those were unreasonable demands that were like unreasonable demands by Gonfall's perspective to Wiper, or if it was the other Skypeans' perspective to Wiper in regards to whatever the unreasonable demands were. I don't remember what they are. I'm sure it probably involved like giving us all of Upper Yard back. And all of that. And so those peace negotiations basically fell through. And because of that, the tempers flared up and tensions flared up and everything between the two groups again. And apparently Gonfall had tried to offer pumpkin juice to Wiper, and Wiper took that as an insult, because Noland was the one that introduced pumpkins to the Shandians, and he took that as an insult from Gonfall, which it's not meant to be an insult, but he took it that way. And then I think it's about 6 years before the story starts is when Enel and his group show up, and they show up at Gonfal's palace, or his shrine, whatever it is, where he lives as God on Skypiea in Upper Yard. And they show up there, and they basically end up laying waste to Gonfal. Enel and his group, all of his Bjerken buddies and everything show up, and they're just like, okay, I'm here to challenge you for the right to be god of Skypiea. And Gonfal and Enel fight, and Gonfal unfortunately loses, and so many of Gonfal's subordinates end up getting very badly injured, and Gonfal blames himself. And, Enel takes up the position of god of Skypiea at that point in time, and drives Gonfal into hiding. During the whole time frame of, Enel's reign as god, Gonfal actually takes on the role of a mercenary and calls himself the Knight of the Sky. And he does have Pierre. Pierre has actually been with him since he had been the god of Skypiea. I don't remember if we actually know Pierre's age, but I would assume he's been around Gonfal for quite a while. And Pierre is one of the ones that remains very loyal to him. I mean, a good chunk of the rest of the group that had served under Gonfal when he was god still remained very loyal to him. We see this in the fact that all of the White Berets that are led by McKinley, that they agree to becoming the White Berets because it's a way of protecting the people of Skypiea and keeping the peace, so that way Enel doesn't go and try to attack them. We know that as a mercenary, as the Sky Knight, he, helps and protects those who show up from, the White Sea and the Blue Sea that end up making their way all the way up to the Skypian territory, and even like other sections of the White Sea in that area, that he provides protection to them because he's being a mercenary. And he has them that they have, he'll give them whistles. And I think it's 5 million X-Toll, which I think like a million X-Toll is like one berry, is I think what the exchange rate was. So it's like, hey, Nami, if you want to be extra rich, exchange all of your berry for X-Toll. So it's like the whistles don't actually cost very much, and I think they only have like a one-time use on them. But he, during this time frame, Gonfal ends up spending like the next 6 years or so in this position as a mercenary. And then we get into the actual story where we have the Skypiea arc. So Gonfal rescued the Straw Hatch, and this is where he's introduced. He rescues the Straw Hatch from Whiteper, the first time that they land in the White Sea. And, he interacts with them, and he, gives them one of the whistles because he's impressed by the fact that they managed to travel up the Knockup Stream and survive and actually get all the way up to the White Sea. So he's actually rather impressed by that, so that's why he gives them a whistle. He saves them from Whiteper's group because at this point in time, Whiteper and his main group of Skypian warriors tend to act as kind of highway robbery at that point in time against, ships and stuff like that are coming from the Blue Sea and everything. And, he introduces himself, and he introduces Pierre and everything, and we find out that, of course, Pierre is a bird that ate the horse fruit, which I know that that has come up very recently in the One Piece discussion setup, because I know that so many people were like, oh no, Stronger from the Blackbeard Pirates has the Pegasus fruit. Oh no, what happened to Pierre? That's the Pegasus fruit. That is the mythical zone version of a horse fruit. Pierre is just a bird that ate the horse fruit. That's why he has wings, because that's his hybrid form. And I know a lot of people were upset about that, but I actually, because recently I did videos where or at least recently within like the last year or whatever, I had done videos where I talked about Pierre. where I'd mentioned Pierre, and I'm like, well, I know that that's not Pierre's fruit, so I know that Pierre is okay. Or at the very least, he hasn't been attacked by Blackbeard. Also, I don't know how Blackbeard would know about Pierre and know about him, being a horse anyway. So, Pierre is fine. I just wanted to address that because I know that a lot of people are like, oh no, Pierre got attacked. And it's just like, no, 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 different devil fruits. And then later on, as as the Straw Hats are getting familiar with Skypiea, they end up interacting with Caunus, and then Gonfall also ends up showing up during that time frame, and actually ends up protecting her from Enel's wrath because she had said something against Enel, and Gonfall shows up and helps her, and he gets her back to her home safely and everything. And she pleads with Gonfall for him to, return to his status as God, because Caunus at this point in time, I mean, like, okay, side note here about the Skypieans. The Skypieans are not stupid when it comes to Enel. They are well aware of the fact that Enel is a tyrannical god, but because of their laws, because of the way their society is set up, the fact that Enel is the one that took over the position of God from Gonfall, and until someone is able to defeat Enel and prove that they are stronger than him, or until Enel just decides to leave, they can't really do anything against him because of his mantra combined with his Goro Goro no Mi powers. He's able to sense when someone is being a heretic against him or is speaking out against him and everything like that. So the Skypieans have to be very careful with what they say, and probably even what they think to a degree. And obviously with their actions and the fact that, Enel electrocutes a guy that ended up on their, on Upper Yard by accident. And yes, I'm sure a lot of people would have preferred or would love it if Gonfall was able to actually defeat Enel and take back his position as God. But the thing is that, yes, Enel is stronger than Gonfall. That is true. That is not something that can be debated. Gonfall may have more fighting experience and everything like that, and he may be a better person in general, but Enel is stronger, given the fact that I don't even know if we know that if Gonfall has haki of any kind, has like mantra or anything like that, as they refer to it during the Skypiea arc. I don't know if Gonfall has that. It's never mentioned whether or not he does have it, and I don't remember finding it in my notes, finding it in the notes when I was looking through them. So there's not really much there. I mean, yes, we obviously see in a one-on-one match later on that, yes, Enel can take on Gonfall very easily, even though that is an injured Gonfall. But the thing is that, 6 years prior to the story starting, when they had their first battle, Enel was able to beat Gonfall pretty handily. And I'm not trying to be disparaging against Gonfall. I like him. I think he's a great ruler. I think he's a hell of a lot better of a ruler than Enel is, but there's just not a lot that he can do against Enel. If Gonfall had haki, if Gonfall had a devil fruit that helped make him immune to Enel, that would be great. He would be able to cause damage to him if he had better weaponry that where he could affect Enel, or if he basically had like a suit made of rubber. That would help. That would help, but rubber is not really native to Skypiea, since, given Enel's shock at having to deal with Luffy, and Luffy's rubber. So, I'm quite certain that a lot of the people that live in Skypiea would quite like for Gonfall to be able to reclaim his status as God. Caunus and her father Poggia are two of them, same with McKinley and the White Berets, and probably most of the people that live in Skypiea would quite like for Gonfall to be God again and Enel to go away. Just because of how much more restrictive their lives have become. Because Gonfall does not strike me as the type of person that is going to try to strike someone down and smite them with a lightning bolt just because they criticized a decision he made. Whereas Enel probably has done that multiple times, particularly quite often in the beginning when he was first God, because he was trying to demonstrate his power and scare the heck out of the Skypeans. So there's a difference there. And Gonfall actually does some explanations to Conus about the fact that Luffy and his crew might actually be the type of people that, they're not, they're pirates, but they're not like the bad type of pirates, because I'm quite certain that, the Skypeans have probably dealt with pirates from the Blue Sea before, just because of like how many other ships have probably been shot up into Skypiea and such. So I'm sure that they've probably dealt with pirates before. And Gonfall and Conus and Poggia actually ended up having like conversation about the Straw Hats and like how they're kind of different than other pirates, but maybe that they actually have the ability to defeat Enel. Maybe there's a possibility there. And that they're her friends because like, yeah, they helped save her too. And, they didn't do anything against Conus. They tried to help Conus at various points in time. And everything. So there's that. And he, Gonfall's like, well, I had a pirate friend too once. And that's, of course, a reference to Roger from 20-some years ago. And eventually what ends up happening is Conus and her father, along with, Gonfall, end up actually kind of becoming part of the big war, the big fight that's happening on Upper Yard. And Gonfall goes and he actually ends up fighting against Shura and his giant bird in order to help protect Chopper and the Sunny. And he shows up and he fights Shura and protects Chopper and protects the Sunny and is able to help that. But he unfortunately ends up taking several hits in the process and actually kind of gets rather injured. And he ends up getting treated by Conus, and I believe Nami is there, or ends up there as well. Or some others end up there as well, and he ends up helping and getting treatment and everything like that. And he actually ends up kind of giving them some more information about Gonfall, or about Enel, and about Skypiea, and about the Shandians, and everything like that. So he's giving them some different information about that. And what ends up happening is, that night when the Straw Hats have like their big celebratory bonfire, everything really late into the night with like the wolves from the Upper Yard forest and everything like that. And, all of them just having a big roaring time around the bonfire. He's talking with Robin and like, they're just like discussing things. And, he explains that the items that get knocked up from the Blue Sea are actually quite valuable in Skypiea, including and most importantly, Verth, which is like soil, earth, dirt, that type of thing. That's what they refer to as Verth. And that it is the most valuable thing because there's so little of it within Skypiea. And that's why Upper Yard is holy ground. And of course, we see during the flashback with Noland and Calgra and everything that, Upper Yard got knocked up there. That was part of Jaya. That's where that's where the Shandians lived. And it gets taken over by the god at the time, 400 years ago, Ubu. And, he takes it from them because he thinks, oh, I'm a god, therefore this is mine now. And that, of course, led to the problems that they're having now. For more discussion and thoughts on this, go watch the episode where I talk about the old gods and Shandian chiefs, that video. And what ends up happening is, so Gonfall is explaining the value of Verth to not just the Skypeans, but to a degree also to the Shandians, given the fact that Upper Yard was once the Shandians' home. And then, of course, during the next day, well, before they have this big giant party, Enel has shown up and he ends up taunting the ones that are on the ship, or not Pagia, but Kanis and Nami and Sanji and Usopp and Gonfall, and explains to them that he's going to have this big Skypean death game and everything. Upper Yard death game, whatever it's referred to as. And, by the end of it, there'll only be like 5 people left. So, yeah. And so, we see this, encounter between Gonfall and Enel there. And, he has, Enel has everything set for his game. And what ends up happening from there is, the next day when everything is going on, Gonfall is doing everything he can to try to get to where Enel is, trying to do everything he can to try to actually beat Enel. I think he ends up having to fight against Hattori and Koturi, whatever, the 2 weird twin things that are part of Eneru's God's army. I think he ends up fighting against them, and he ends up beating them and everything. Taking some damage himself, unfortunately, in the process. During this time frame, I think he also ends up teaming up with Nami at some point in this time frame. I know that stuff happens with Kanis during all of this, including Kanis' father, Pagia, getting hurt trying to protect her. And of course, this is when all the other battles are happening between, Chopper and Garatsu and Zoro and Ohm and, so many of the other different, the Shandians versus Enel's army versus, the Straw Hats involved in this versus, all of them trying to get up to, where the Belfry is and everything like that. Trying to get to the ruins and all of that. And, eventually, it all ends up coming down to where it is Enel, and then Gonfall, Zoro, Robin, Wiper, and then Nami off to the side, who's kind of trying to hide at that point in time. Fair enough. I would do that in her position as well. And, so it's those 5, and then Enel are the last ones standing when the Skypean death game is almost over. So basically what ends up happening is Enel, in an attempt to just basically be like, okay, well, and then he just electrocutes Gonfall. He defeats Gonfall in 1 attack by sending a certain amount of voltage. I think it's 2 million volt blast of thunder through Gonfall, which just kind of knocks him out entirely. Probably almost kills him, in all honesty. But causes a lot of damage to Gonfall at that point in time. And then either before or after this is where there is so actually, thing that I missed that I did want to make sure that I did point out, so I'm going to back up a tiny bit. During when everything is happening, during the whole Skypean death game and everything, at some point in time, Gonfall ends up interacting with Isa, who is the little Shandorian girl that has mantra as well. And he ends up interacting with her, and she either knows who he is or he tells her who he is. And the fact that he is the former god of Skypiea and everything, and that, so she's probably mainly only dealt with Enel as having to deal with him as a god, and hearing stories from Wiper and Rocky and the rest of the Skypean warrior, or the rest of the Shandian warriors, and having to deal with Enel and how horrible he is. So Isa is under the impression that Gonfall is horrible as well. And Gonfall actually looks her in the eye and tells her that he would not blame her if she attacked him as well, if Isa attacked him. And I think he even gives her his spear. And it's this great moment, and I really wish it had been one that they had left in the Skypean episode of Skypean movie that they did for whatever they did from One Piece for that. I wish they had left it in there. But it's, it's the scene where, Gonfall and Isa are kind of staring each other down, and, you know, she is like, Gonfall gives her, like, he gives her his spear. She has, like, something that allows her to attack him. And he's not moving. He's like, yeah, a lot of what happened with Enel is my fault because I was not strong enough to defeat him. And if that's, if you want to try to take me out, then fine. I'm not going to try to stop you. She obviously chooses not to. She ends up putting her faith in him, and he, I think at some point he helps get her out of Nola. I don't remember. It's been so long. I don't remember if this conversation is taking place while they are inside of Nola with, like, Luffy and everything else that's going on with that, with, like, Luffy being trapped inside Nola and then they get out at some point in time, or if it's happening in a different area but it's still near Nola. Because I know that at some point in time Luffy ends up inside Nola and then he gets out, but I don't remember if Isa is also inside of Nola with Gonfall when a lot of this is happening. I think they're trapped inside the snake's belly as well, and I think Nami is involved in part of this as well. And of course, Gonfall has helped save Caunus at this point in time and done a whole bunch of other stuff and all of that in order to try to, help the Straw Hats and, stop Enel and everything like that. And also, it's the right thing to do. But, like, all of that leads up to where Enel just electrocutes Gonfall and then knocks him out and everything. And then Gonfall, of course, Enel proceeds to, of course, knock out the rest of the ones that were the finalists. And then, eventually what ends up happening is Gonfall is, I believe, actually knocked out and is still unconscious during the main bits of fighting that happened between Luffy and Enel up on top of up on the Maxim and during up on top of Giant Jack. I think Gonfall is partially knocked out for part of that, but I think that he wakes up somewhere near the end of it. And, he's, cheering Luffy on at that point in time. I don't remember if he's able to help with trying to take down Giant Jack. I know that Wiper is a big part of that, but I don't remember if Gonfall is a part of it. But what ends up happening is after Luffy actually defeats Enel, Gonfall kind of has to, like, come out of retirement in his role as Sky Knight to end up becoming God of Skypiea once again, due to the demand of the people, because at that point in time, so many of them, I mean, like, Gonfall was God for a good chunk of time, because he was God before Roger showed up, and for a good chunk of time after Roger left. Not that Roger and his crew were there for very long, but Gonfall seems to have been God for quite a while, and seems to have been a pretty good God. He even tried to do the peace negotiations with the Shandians, as I mentioned. And what ends up happening is, by demand of the people, he becomes God again. And he actually ends up, fully extending the hand to the Shandians and being like, okay, it's time for us to finally put our past behind us. It's time for us to move forward and try to fix these bonds between our people. It's time to stop being separated. It's time to, try to build Skypiea and make it better and everything. And I think, well, I know that, like, after the whole, victory against Enel and everything like that, that of course, like, all the Straw Hats and the Shandians and the Skypeans and everything, they have that huge big party and everything like that. And, all of that fun big bonfire party again with, like, everybody happy and, it's just like, Enel is gone and we survived and everything. And, Gonfall and the Shandian chief are just having, like, a bunch of drinks and just really happy and smiling and everything like that. And kind of this bond between Gonfall and Wiper. Wiper has started to see Gonfall and have more respect for him at that point in time. We kind of saw that when everything was happening when it was like the four of them against Enel, when Wiper and Gonfall kind of like had this moment where they like looked at each other and then looked at Enel and looked back at each other and kind of have this moment where it's like, okay, we've had our differences in the past, but we need to set them aside now so we can try to defeat him, because he's the main enemy right now in regards to Enel. And so they end up kind of working together there a little bit, but now it's to the point where Gonfall, where he can help with moving the Shandians and the Skypeans forward. And then the next day, while all the other Straw Hats are, trying to gather up a bunch of gold, Robin is, of course, reading the poneglyph and everything that's there, and, talking with Gonfall. And Gonfall is explaining to her, because she sees the writing on the side that was obviously not from the poneglyph, but it's written in the poneglyph language, and it's about Goldie Roger, and she's like, Roger came here at one point in time, didn't he? And Gonfall's like, yes, he did. And he must have stayed a little while because he considered Roger his friend. And, he's like, he remarks that, Luffy has the same initial as Roger. Now, side note, we don't really get last names as a big thing in Skypiea. There's not really Gonfall is kind of like the only one that has anything that could be considered a last name. All the rest of the characters have just like a first name. They don't have a family name associated with them. So the significance of Goldie, Monkey D, whatever, may not be as apparent in Skypiea and the Shandians and everything, or the Bjerkins, considering how long they were separated from the world. But the fact that I don't know. We don't know how much history that the Skypeans have that would maybe tie into the Void Century, and even with that, we don't know how much Gonfall would be aware of it. We also see the fact that after the battle with Edaru is finished and everything, Gonfall makes his way into where Enel had been keeping, a good chunk of Gonfall's servants that had been his servants while he was God, and Enel has turned them into slaves in order to force them to build the Arc Maxim. Gonfall goes in and he finds them and he apologizes to them and everything. He's like, I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. I'm sorry I couldn't keep you safe and everything. And they kind of, they're just happy that he's okay now and that he's back and that Enel is gone and that they can be free again. And, the White Berets are the same thing with McKinley and everything like that. And basically what ends up happening is after that, the Shandians and the Skypeans start to, fix their problems, fix their divides between each other and everything. And Gonfall and the Shandian chief start becoming more, friendly and everything like that. And, we kind of cut ahead, we have some other additional things, Gonfall sends the Straw Hats off, when they leave for, the Blue Sea and everything like that. He, sends them off with a smile and all of that. And an octopus that turns into a balloon. And what ends up happening is, of course, then we kind of get like a little while later during Water 7, we have, the Where Are They Now, Decks of the World thing. And we just see Gonfall and the Shandian chief just like talking and drinking pumpkin juice and everything. And then during, again, after the 2-year time skip, when we have from the Decks of the World again, we again see them sharing a celebratory glass of pumpkin juice for, I don't know, like an anniversary or a big party or whatever. But the thing that does very much show the shift in the relations between the Skypeans and the Shandians is the fact that Wiper, Genbo, Kamakiri, and Bram, who are Wiper obviously, but then like the rest of his, or some of his high level commanders within like the Shandian armed forces, that they have become Gonfal's God's guards instead, and that it is their job to not just protect Gonfal, but also to protect Skypiea and Shandia. And so we see that there has been this vast improvement in relations between the two different groups. And that Wiper, in all honesty, I would not be surprised if Gonfal ends up like training Wiper to become God after Gonfal is fully no longer able to hold the position, or whenever Gonfal feels that Wiper is ready to hold the position, because at this point in time, Gonfal has earned Wiper's respect and the respect of the Shandians as well, because Gonfal tried to do what he could to help stop Enel, and yes, he got knocked out in the process and he almost died, but he tried to do what he could to stop them. So we get some of that. So I would not be surprised if that's like Gonfal's plan, because it's like, out of all the rest of the people on Skypiea, I would say that Wiper would probably be the most likely candidate for the person that would become God next. I mean, Isa might train more with her mantra and everything like that. And Caunus isn't really much of a warrior. As awesome as Caunus is, and I do want to do a Caunus video at some point in time, as awesome as Caunus is, she's not really a warrior. So I wouldn't be surprised if Gonfal's intention is to like train Wiper so that way Wiper can then become God of Skypiea when he's ready, or when Gonfal feels that he's ready. Hopefully Wiper has learned to get a little bit better handle on his anger. In regards to some trivia about Gonfal, obviously Gonfal's name is most likely a reference to Gandalf, Gandalf the White, Gandalf the Grey, from The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings books. So there's probably that. He also kind of looks like him with the long white beard and everything. And another thing that, surprisingly enough, I hadn't noticed initially, is that Gonfal is one of the very few sky people who does not have wings. Yes, Gonfal has like this suit of armor that he wears the majority of the time, but even when he's just in bandages or whatever, we don't see his wings sticking out. There are a few other ones that don't have wings. Enel, who ripped his own wings out and then put like the drum arch thing on his back to distinguish himself more. Uba'u, who was the god 400 years ago of Skypiea, he did not seem to have any wings. And then Herodis, who is actually the weather wizard guy that's on Witheria, because he's from, I believe, Bierka. And he doesn't have wings. But pretty much all the other Skypieans and Shandians and whatever small amounts of Bierkans that we've seen all have wings, except for those ones that I mentioned. And 3 of the ones that we've seen that don't have wings have been God. Herodis has not been God. But, Gonfal, Enel, and Uba'u have all been God of Skypiea at one point in time. Gonfal being the current one, obviously. But the fact that none of them had wings, admittedly, as it is stated, Enel did his on purpose. Whether or not that's like a mark of the God of Skypiea, I don't know. Or whether or not Gonfal was just born without wings, or he lost them at some point in time, is never explained. I don't think we ever get an explanation on that. But I did want to point that out. That's about it for this. The next video in this series in regards to rulers and leaders, I believe, should be Iceberg for Water 7. And then I've got some options, because that's kind of when we're starting to get introduced to world government setup and certain things like that. So I've got a lot of different videos that I can do for the world government and celestial dragons and a bunch of different stuff about that. So, but some of the stuff like the EAM video might get like a current one, and then much later on might get another one once we get more information about it. So about them. So we'll go from there. So yes, the next one is iceberg after this one. So that's what I have. I thank you for watching, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye.